and welcome to How to Improve Science Performance Through Strategic Note-Taking.
Our topic today is linear measurement. To begin our study of how things move, we're going to have to learn how to measure where a movement starts and where a movement finishes. In science, measurements are taken using the metric system. Write this down. The metric system is a standard unit of measurement based on powers of 10. One more time, the metric system is a standard unit of measurement based on powers of 10. The basic unit of length in the metric system is the meter. You need to know this. The basic unit of length in the metric system is the meter. The symbol for a meter is a lowercase m. A meter is similar to a yard, but this is a yardstick, this is our meter stick. You can see that the meter is slightly larger. Meters are good for measuring distances like the width of your classroom or the length of a soccer field. But sometimes we need to measure things that are smaller than a meter. It's important to know that in the metric system, a smaller unit of measure is a centimeter. The symbol for centimeter is a lowercase cm. The prefix or the beginning of the word centimeter, centi, actually stands for thousandths. In other words, 1 centimeter, which is about the width of your pinky, 1 centimeter is 1,000th or 100th of a meter. Or there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. You also need to know that sometimes we need a smaller unit of measure, smaller than a centimeter, to measure things like the width of a pencil. A smaller unit of measure in the metric system is the millimeter. The symbol for millimeter is lowercase m, lowercase m. The prefix milli actually stands for thousandths. In other words, millimeters, which are the teeny tiny lines on the meter stick, there's actually 1,000 millimeters that make up 1 meter. Again, millimeters are the smallest unit of measure that we're going to use in measuring motion. All right. The next thing we have to talk about is what if you needed to measure something big, a large distance. For example, the distance between Philadelphia and New York City. You definitely wouldn't want to use a small unit of measure like a millimeter. You wouldn't want to use a centimeter either, because that's also too small. Even a meter is too small of a unit to use when you're measuring really big distances. So in the metric system, when we need to measure big distances, we use a kilometer or a kilometer. Now the prefix kilo actually means 1,000. There are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer or kilometer. Imagine 1,000 of these end to end. That makes up 1 kilometer. And the symbol for kilometer is km. Again, this is good for measuring distances, we travel by car, or, for example, the width of our country from coast to coast. Now, the great thing about the metric system is that it's easy to convert or change from one unit of measure to another. You need to write this down. These are 3 conversions that we're going to use when studying motion. 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. And 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeters. Now, because of these conversions, I'm going to show you how we can compare two different measurements. If you were asked which was larger, 5 meters or 250 centimeters, the best way to answer this question would be to change one of your measurements so that you were comparing two of the same units instead of one in meters and one in centimeters. I'm going to show you how to do a conversion. It doesn't matter which unit you convert as long as you change one of them so that you have two of the same measurements with the same units. So I'm going to choose 5 meters. I write down the measurement that I want to convert. Then I multiply that by the conversion factor. When you do this, you always want to put the unit that you want to change it into on the top. I want to change meters into centimeters, so I write centimeters on the top. Then I ask myself, what is the conversion factor or the relationship between meters and centimeters? I know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. I can cancel out my units that are the same, and all I'm left to do is multiply. 5 times 100 equals 500. The only unit I'm left with is centimeters. This tells us that 5 meters is equal to 500 centimeters. Now I can easily compare this to 250 centimeters. When you compare them, you can see that 500 is bigger than 250. So this is the larger value, or we can say 5 meters is the larger value. Let's review what we learned today. Okay. The metric system is a standard unit of measure that is based on powers of 10. The basic unit of length in the metric system is the meter. If you want to measure things smaller than a meter, you can use centimeters. Centimeters are smaller, and there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. If you need to measure something even smaller than that, you can use millimeters. There are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. And finally, if you need to measure something large, you can use kilometers or kilometers. There are 1,000 meters, imagine them end to end, that make up 1 kilometer. And finally, our 3 conversions that you should know. 1 kilometer equals 100 meters, 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, and 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. And that is the end of our topic.